You may well have also heard it talked about as the line of choice. We're staying above the line and below the line, and particularly in the environment in which we're in at the moment. We're encouraging you to think about your business and to think about your response, not just in your business, but personally, and to the situation that we're all facing on a daily basis. And to think about how we can take ownership, accountability, and responsibility to the situation we're facing at the moment. So we all have our own ship, and it's much easier to steer our own ship rather than steering a train on the train tracks. We have this ship, we can steer it. It might take some time to steer it in a different direction, but we can all do that by taking ownership of our business, of ourself and our person and our lives. And we can be accountable for the response that we make as well. There are those people I'm sure you've come across who we know and work with, who will be thinking about blame, excuses and denial, particularly things that aren't going so well in their business. It's about how can we stay above the line? How can we remain positive in this challenging time, and think about how we can be the victor by staying above the point of power rather than going below the line or below that point of power as well. So please just encourage you to stay above the line. It's by staying above that line that's where the power comes from in terms of driving the business forward and responding to the challenges that we are facing, we're all facing at the moment. And we in our own business are having to do things differently, having to deliver our business differently, and think about how we can still connect and still work with clients going forwards. And it's about taking accountability and responsibility for changing things now and trying to get ahead of the game in terms of driving our business forwards. There's a great quote from Jim Rohn, one of the sort of all-time greats of business coaching and business development. And he says, never wish your life were easier, but wish that you were better at it, and to always work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I think those quotes are never more sort of prevalent than they are today. So we need to wish that we were better and do better, work harder on ourselves than I do on our job. Because I think it's our own mindset and how we approach the challenges we're now facing that will really dictate whether our business is a success over the coming weeks and months. So that all said, just to start with, before we go on to the 6 steps, we're just going to talk you through the 11 steps that we believe that any business, regardless of what business you're delivering, whether it's a service or a product business, 6 steps that we really feel business owners need to focus on as of today, if you've not already done it. And the first one of those is about communication. When it comes to crisis communications, there's nothing you can do more positively and more effectively than communicate. Even if you have nothing to communicate about, it's about communicating with your team. So making sure you have daily conversations, sometimes hourly conversations with your team. Make sure they feel supported, they know what they're doing, they know what's required of them in terms of whether, if they're working from home or if they're, when they're coming in, what you need them to do, how you need them to do things differently. Thinking about your customers, communicate with your customers on a regular basis, on a daily basis, using social media, using other networks. You've got to communicate with your customers, let them know you're still there, how you're delivering your service differently, what you can do, where there may be limitations, but just keep that communication going on a regular basis. Try to avoid catastrophization. So don't be all doom and gloom, but talk about the positives. In terms of networks, including social media, so think about the networks, your circles of influence, getting the message out there with those people that you can get on board to support your business or that you've been communicating with previously, but communicate with them on a regular basis, whether you're in networking groups or whether you're using your circles of influence, your friends, your family. Talk about what you're doing as a result of the virus, what you're doing differently, and also think about your community. So think about how you can make use of the press, radio, social media. Talk to them about your business and what you are doing, how you're still operating, and try and get the positives out there to try and combat some of the negative messages we're hearing in the media at the moment. And also think about your suppliers and your stakeholders. So communicate regularly with your suppliers, know what suppliers are available, know what the terms and issues that they're facing, so you can change how you're operating your business on a regular basis. So it is about communicate on a regular basis. That is our number one step we feel you need to think about now. And I'm sure you are communicating, but just think about how you can communicate even more and even more effectively over the coming days and weeks. I'll pass over to Glenn for number 2.
Yeah, so the next step after communicating is to be positive. So obviously in the communication, we want to be positive as well. But I think this shouldn't be underestimated. I mean, if we look at the poll that we've done, I think it's kind of 50-50 by the looks of it, between business being worse or being the same at the moment. So nobody's seeing things being better. So we might not necessarily have any toilet roll manufacturers or hand sanitizers on the call, but yeah, it's to not panic and worry, because that doesn't help. That's just going to put us in a worse place. So starting to think about how we can be positive. What can we turn this into an opportunity for? So, I lost control. Sorry, there you go. No. You still got control, Steve?
No, should have. I'll carry on for you.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, looking for those small wins and looking for them every hour. At any opportunity, try and find those small opportunities for success. We're seeing a lot of businesses that are doing positive things, whether it's the local pub in our village, they're now saying, we'll deliver beer to your door, we'll deliver fish and chips, particularly if you're self-isolating, that kind of thing. Try and be positive in what you're doing. And, yes, how could I sell toilet paper? What could I do that's different? So, if you look at, the large companies like McDonald's, obviously announced in the last 24 hours that, they're no longer offering that you can go in and eat, but they're, expanding the delivery offerings that they do. So, thinking about what different products and solutions, I know Gary's on the call, so like Gordon was trialing Zoom as a method of delivering martial arts training, which it seems a great innovation on this side.
Yeah, we'll be doing the same.
You're doing the same. Excellent. So it's kind of thinking, in our own business, we're a service sort of training, consultant, coaching business. So we're doing a lot more of this kind of method of delivery rather than the in-person. So what can we do that people need as well? So whether people need vast amounts of toilet paper is somewhat debatable, but certainly the hand sanitizer category is definitely something to look at if that was something that you were close to, but maybe don't go too far out of your comfort zone. But sometimes less news is better, so don't constantly other way I look at it is to be positive. Maybe don't watch BBC and Sky News all day. It's maybe somewhat better than Jeremy Kyle, but actually if you watch all that stuff all day, what you're really getting is opinion and recycled things. So yes, maybe watch that 5 o'clock, whatever it is, conference from Downing Street, because you're getting the facts there, because you need the facts to make the decision in your business and associated in your personal life as well as your business. But don't get absorbed with the negativity. Focus on the positive. What can we do? Yes, we can work from home, so that's not appropriate for all businesses. Certainly if you're a manufacturing business, can't exactly set up the machinery in people's houses, but what can you do? Can we work in smaller groups? Can we run different shifts? It's thinking those positive suggestions of what you could do slightly differently. And yes, so leadership is really, really important at this time. So, if you're the owner of a business in particular, but even if you're potentially the head of a household, whatever it happens to be, people are looking for that leadership. They're looking for people who are positive, not people who are burying their heads in the sand, saying, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage, my business is going to disappear. That's all, as Steve was saying at the beginning of the call, that's the negativity that we need to avoid. We need to focus on the positive. What can we do differently? And how can we lead the people in our families and our businesses to a better place?
Thanks, Len. So on to number 3, and it's about knowing the cycles. So the cycles of the economy are usually every 7 to 10 years, and we've probably, those of us who've been around a bit longer will have experienced not necessarily the same, but would have experienced the crash of 2008, 2007, and so we'll know that this cycle will come around again, and we'll know the cycle that goes from here going forwards. And we all know that autumn comes after summer and winter comes after autumn and spring comes after winter. So it's about knowing the cycles and being able to stay one step ahead of the cycles. So the cycles of the economy are the same, and we need to keep aware of what's happening. So I think I heard on the news last night that the makeshift hospitals in China, they've just closed the last makeshift hospital. They're now their number of cases are dropping dramatically. So it's about thinking about, well, what's happening in China, what's happening in Italy, what's happening in Spain, and trying to keep an eye and look for the facts online do the research, see what's happening in your industry in those countries that have been through where we are now, and how they're coming out the other side, and sort of, you know, just keep an eye on how things are moving forwards, so that you again can stay one step ahead, and think about how you can plan for not only this next 90 days, but also the 90 days after that and the 90 days after that. So just have a game plan in your mind and work out what's going to happen over the next, well, I say work out, but try and think about what you could be doing over the next 90 days and beyond, and plan ahead. But the key thing on this point is just to research and to try to be aware of what's going on in other countries that are that state, you know, sort of 6 weeks, 4 weeks ahead of us in terms of this current pandemic, and just plan for that as well. Back to you, Glenn.
So yes, the next step that we all need to think about is, what are we going to change? Because the world has fundamentally changed in the last few days, weeks, whatever time frame you want to look at it at. So we need to start thinking about what that change means for us. I'll see if I've got control back. No, still haven't got control. So yes, obviously, you know, the only constant in life is change is such a true quote to think about at this time, in that, you know, what we're talking about is nothing new. You know, there never was a world where things could stay as they were. The analogy with nature is things are either growing or they're dying, and that's never truer than right now. If we don't think about how can we do better, we'll fundamentally run the risk of businesses collapsing, etc. So the way that we look at it is, think about how you can get ahead. Yeah, how can you turn this to your advantage and be a leader in this space? And there's a very simple formula that we use in our coaching. Oh, yeah, yeah, thanks, Steve. So it's a very simple formula that we use, which looks at certain factors, but what it boils down to is, you know, what is the resistance to what you want to do, and what are the first steps? So if you see that formula there, you've got the vision, etc. But yeah, for today's purposes, it's what are those first steps? What can we actually do today to get us there? And that first step is often the hardest, and it may even be even harder today, but it's starting to think about what are the products, the services, the pricing, all those kind of factors. And when I talk about pricing, I think it's important that we don't think we need to, you know, discount to win business. It's about positioning value. It always should be, and even more so now. So, you know, particularly in businesses that are suffering, like in hospitality, it's not about let's give everyone money back or give it away for free. It's what can we do that solves a problem for people and gets them where they want to be in a few weeks, a few months' time. So the examples, yeah, like Steve was saying, you know, he was talking to a florist, I think you were, weren't you, yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to a florist yesterday, and she was saying, oh, you know, not able to well, the number of sales has dropped off dramatically. And I was talking to her about, well, you know, we've got Mother's Day coming up this weekend. You've got a service you can actually deliver, unlike many other products and services out there. So she's looking at how she can reposition now her marketing over the next 24, 48 hours to encourage the online order and delivery by her out to people's homes. You've got people at home self-isolating who would appreciate a bunch of flowers either now or Mother's Day. So she's really just changing her marketing straight away to get the key messages out there. I mean, she has got the additional challenge of getting flowers into the country, and that's going to be another challenge for her. But at the moment, while she's got stocks and supply, she's actually changing her marketing to reflect the current environment she's operating in.
Yeah, and so staffing's an interesting one, in that, again, it depends on the business that we're in, but certainly for a lot of the service oriented businesses or the administration roles, a lot of people now, you know, it's the government advice, work from home, so that requires use of technology. So, you know, how that sits, what the different roles are, and yeah, so think about the whole business. You know, break it. You know, do something completely different. And quite often, what happens in these circumstances is we're forced to think about doing our business differently, to fundamentally break it from where we thought it was. And from that comes opportunity that we probably wouldn't have been looking at until now. I know we've spoken to a number of businesses that had a plan to do something in a few months' time, and now they're bringing that plan in to start now. I was talking to a website design, or well, they're not primarily website, but it's more of a design agency. But they were trying to bring a solution where previously they were marketing at a higher level, and now they're bringing in a package that they were going to launch a few months' time to position at the lower level, spread it over a payment term, so they get the work in now while they've got the staff sitting there ready to do the jobs that they might not be now doing in the event space. And so delivering value to businesses that need a web presence so that people can find them because they can't necessarily go to retail shops or other physical premises. So pivoting slightly on that side, and it's a win-win. So, you know, the businesses that need the websites are going to get them now, and the people designing them are going to be able to service them.
Thanks, Glenn. So step number 5 is about cutback. Cost cutting has to be the top priority in this crisis. The key is to lower the cost intelligently and flexibly. So it's not about throwing everything out with the bathwater, but cash is king. So making sure you've got a good cash flow forecast at the moment, thinking about where you can make some cutbacks, stop the spending. If you're about to invest in new machinery or new market, well, I wouldn't say cut back on your marketing, but new other investments in your business, think about what you can cut back strategically and how you can reinvest that money. What other outlays are there that you can cut back on? Fees, renegotiate fees and services that you may be paying for at the moment. Think about other industries that are thriving in this business, in this situation at the moment. How can you tap in to them? How can you support them? So I'll just say stop upgrading, investing in new infrastructure, new machinery at the moment. I say renegotiate any contracts you've got. What can you do with those contracts, those services you've got in place for your business? Whether it's your accountancy service, whether it's other professional services you buy into, how can you renegotiate those agreements at the moment and slow things down or postpone? So we're not saying stopping doing everything, but how can you slow things down slightly to improve your cash flow forecast at the moment, or postpone maybe new projects, new services, and put them back until you know we've got more certainty in the business environment in which you're operating. But it is remembering about cutting back, but cutting back strategically and intelligently, rather than just having a mad sort of throwing everything out at once. And also, I'd say, as I was just saying then, to keep your marketing and keep selling. So the most important thing you can do at the moment is about marketing your products, marketing your services. So cutting back cash, cutting back spending in other areas, but making sure you're continuing to invest in your marketing and your selling. It goes back to what I was saying on step 1 about communicating. It's really important at the moment to be marketing, to be communicating, to let people know you're still there, you're still offering a service, and you've still got something to sell that they will need ultimately to keep themselves going. Back to you, Glenn.
Yes, so yeah, and I think the point Steve was just making, it's not about stopping doing things that you should be doing. So if you were investing to launch a new product, it may still make sense to do that. The example I heard someone give yesterday was, maybe if you travel around first class or business class, you might want to think twice about that kind of thing. So it's controlling the spending. So it's all about cash. Cash has always been king. I'm sure a number of you have probably already done like a rough sort of break-even analysis, hopefully for the next few months. How long can you survive at the moment, and what does that look like? So thinking about where you can get that cash from if you don't already have it sitting in the bank, which hopefully you don't, because that's maybe not a great use of it, or it might come in handy right now. So when we're talking about extending the credit, we're then thinking of, how can we free up additional cash in the business or for the business, or even for you personally. So have I got, no, still not. So yeah, get the umbrella before it starts raining. That's the best analogy I can use. It's one I always try and adopt in the business. So think about what do you need, and try and get it now while it's going. So if you've got an overdraft facility, is it of the right level? Do you need another one? Do you need a loan? Obviously, there's a lot of government support coming. Last night we heard in total eye-watering amounts of billions of pounds is being made available, but it will take time for it to filter down. It will go through, I think, from my understanding, a lot of it is through rateable value of businesses, which is probably a quite equitable way of doing it when you think about it, because those kind of businesses with premises, they're the ones that won't be able to use the premises at the moment for the foreseeable few weeks, potentially months. But that kind of relief will take time to come through. There's cash grants, there's going to be loans. But think about what you can think about now In other words, while all that's filtering through is, what does your personal credit line look like? What does the business credit line look like? If you've got credit cards, is there opportunity to refinance? So really think about what that looks like holistically. And as it says, look for the lowest rates, obviously, make it affordable, make sure the repayment plans are affordable for you and for the business, the timescales sit. So really start to put it into a plan. I mean, I know we sort of talked, one of the poll questions was about the planning, and it looks like most people are in that rethinking or don't have a plan stage. So this is critical. Cash is king, I think, as it probably on the previous slide, but predicting the cash flow is very difficult at this point in time, clearly, but having a rough plan of what your outgoings are, what the potential incomings are. I know a number of companies were doing exactly this. Anybody that I've owed money to suddenly been checking in to see when they're going to get paid over the last few days. But that's an important thing to do, particularly if you're extending credit to others. But also if you are and most of us are suppliers to other people with some sort of credit terms of some description, be reasonable in that regard as well. You might need the cash in your business, but equally they might not have much in theirs. So a bit like the website example I was giving earlier, if you can extend those payment terms over a period, so it gives you a little bit of predictable cash flow, and equally they're not giving all the cash to you, that's an important thing to consider.
Thanks, Len. So just talking now a bit more about staffing and staff cuts and changes. I mean, the one thing that none of us want to do is lay staff off. It doesn't. It's not the choice we want to be making. So it's about how we can make best use of the staff we've got at the moment and use other approaches. So asking staff to take vacations or holidays if possible is one way of making better use of the staffing structure you've got, and asking them to do it if you are going to make changes, doing it all at once rather than sort of bit by bit piecemeal. So having the same approach to all your staff, and sometimes you just have to make changes. So it's about thinking about what changes you need to make and doing it as quickly and as painfully as possible. Pain-free as possible. But it's about using the options you have with your staff rather than just letting them all go. Think about things like pay cuts, restructuring the pay, suspending bonus programs. But think about the staff you've got, how you can make best use of those staff, but also I appreciate they're in a difficult position as well. So it's about making use of the options such as holidays, such as part-time working, flexible working, etc., etc. So think about the staff you've got, the services you need to provide going forward in the short term, and making best use of different options you can think of with your staffing structure. And that goes on to working from home. And back to you, Glenn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, the point Steve was just making time very much with that leadership point earlier. I think it's important if you've got a team that you show them strong leadership, you show them that positivity. And I think one of the suggestions we were making on the previous slide is, do it all at once rather than attrition. So it's not death by a thousand knives. If you think it's not sustainable, it's almost better to go in and say, listen, we're laying everyone off than lay someone off every week, because that will really affect the team morale and also the image of your business. But yes, planning the working from home is an important step. Obviously, the government guidance is to do precisely that. We're following that in our business. Our business, it's a little bit easier to do than some others. But that presents new challenges in that if you're used to an environment where everyone works in the same room, for example, it's maybe easier to hold each other to account. And therefore there are challenges of using the technology. So we're on a Zoom call now. Zoom's obviously a preeminent technology in this space. Really great. We can all jump on a call. I know my wife's using it this evening to arrange a play date for several children who can't associate because they've got coughs and symptoms of various descriptions. So it can work in the family context as well as the business. But what's important is to hold each other to account. So if you're having meetings, what is the reporting structure? as I was saying earlier, and it's certainly come out in conversations in the last few days, that from adversity, innovation breeds. And I think that's so true in this context, that quite often you're in an office and we use technology, certainly in our business, we kind of look over each other's shoulder on a laptop, but actually the technology can be better if we use it properly, that we can screen share, we can all actually see the same spreadsheet and work on it and interact together. But the important aspects, as we've put on the slide here, you can see here, is that the customer service should be better, not worse. It shouldn't be that it's hard to get hold of your business. And that's where the adaptations need to come in. If the business was based around a landline telephone that's sitting in an office that now nobody goes into, that's a huge challenge. If you can use, I've used in my own businesses for a number of years, like remote receptionist services. So that means it's really easy that, I can work from anywhere in the world, frankly, and have done. And, they can patch urgent calls through to me. They can take messages, they can book calls. So whether that's something someone on your team can do, or if it's something that needs to be outsourced, that's a great way of thinking. Clearly banking, a lot of that's gone online, a lot of accountancy processes, but a lot of the small business owners that we talk to maybe haven't caught up with those. And even in the larger businesses, frankly, I go into larger businesses and they're still very paper driven. It's Sandra's in tray is where the invoices to be paid go, for example. So that's no different than the small business owner whose all his receipts go into a shoebox. So maybe joining the digital age will really help in that regard, that you can use that there are apps clearly for expenses like Expensify. There's cloud-based accounting software. A lot of people have email, clearly that's prevalent, but are they really utilizing SharePoints and OneDrives, Dropboxes, other ways of collaborating with lots of people in remote locations? But don't forget, as the business owner, you're responsible for the security element of those things. What is the control of the data? What measures are you putting in place? And how are you communicating as a team to make sure the jobs get done? Everyone's accountable for what they do, but also feel value and think about the scalability of it. Finally, it could be weeks, but it could be months. There is literally talk of a year plus in some quarters from serious scientific and medical people that are advising the government. So, thinking about not just how do we cope with the next 90 days, but what if we had to run our business and we couldn't do face-to-face interactions in the way that we've been used to for a year? What would that mean to the business, and how can we adapt?
Thanks, Len. So that leads very nicely into this next step 9 about online or deliveries. So thinking if your customers and your clients can't come to you, how can you get your service or your product to them? And as we mentioned several times, we're now working remotely via Zoom. I'm down in Kent, Len's up in the Midlands, but we're here working together to deliver our service in a slightly different way. And there's a quote on CNN where a pharmacy has waived all delivery fees to get the drugs and the prescriptions out to their clients, because they want to continue that service to their clients. So our key message to you is, if you have a service or a product, you need to add delivery to the way you deliver your services. If customers are not going to come to you, can they phone you and you deliver? Can they go online and order your services? Can you deliver your service via Zoom, via Skype? How else can you deliver your service or your product to your customer? Because we need to accept for the next, as Glenn was just saying, at least weeks, months, maybe longer, customers are going to drop off straight away, coming out and coming into us, coming into you. Cinemas are a good example. Pharmacies, pubs are closing. So we need to think about how can we deliver the service differently to make sure that you don't miss out or lose out on the opportunity to keep your business going over the coming weeks. And that may well look at, as I was saying a moment ago about staffing, but reskilling staff, retraining staff. Do you have staff that were used to working behind the counter in a store, in a retail store? They now need to go online, be sitting behind the computer, processing orders online, packaging orders, getting them out into the post. So it's thinking about how you can deliver your service differently. People aren't going to come to you. You need to find ways of going to your customers, going to your clients, and continuing to deliver your service to them. And as I've just mentioned, that's about thinking, you may need to look at different strategies, different processes in your business in terms of setting up accounts online, looking how you can package your products, get them out to your customers in a timely manner. But as I said at the very beginning, this all comes back to communication again with your customers, letting them know how they can access your service and your products in a different way. that they can still access them and they can still spend money, they can still buy your services, buy your products on a regular basis. And once you've got your service up and running in that way, continue to communicate with your customers when they can expect their products to be delivered. Customer service, etc., is going to have to take on a slightly different look and feel to how perhaps it was being delivered before. But it's about making sure you go to your customers and don't expect them to continue coming to you in the same way that they have been to date. Back to you, Glenn.
So, yes, thank you, Steve. So step 10 is continue to market and sell. Back to we're either growing or we're dying, the nature analogy. So we need to continue to market and sell, but we need to approach that clearly in a different way. So whatever marketing we were using last week, it probably needs to change. Or whatever method of selling, we probably need to change it. So the quote that we've got here is great in this context, in that, hiding isn't going to help us. Just packing up shop, guess what? That's packing up shop of the whole business. So we have to keep marketing, and we need to think about increasing it rather than decreasing it, frankly. In that, if people aren't coming to us, the usual methods, a lot of people will potentially rely on recurring referral business, etc. And hopefully that will continue. But actually, there's an incentive now to go out and get that extra business, because we need to do it, because we can't necessarily rely on the way that things were. So creating offers, rates, negotiating, those are all things that you need to start thinking about. How can we package these things up differently? That's a great way of doing it. As I said earlier, from the business coach side, the advice would be, maybe don't compete on price, because that's always going to be a race for the bottom. And if there's a lot of desperate people out there, there'll be a lot of people that will compete with you at the bottom. But what can you different? What can you add value? So, the florist that's delivering, the pub that's delivering, those kind of things that they maybe wouldn't ordinarily do, if they can now, or if you can now do it in your business. So we'll cover the 5 ways a little bit later in the webinar. But the 5 ways, in essence, is an action coach methodology of looking at the leads coming into your business, what your conversion rate is. So it's targeting the right things in the business, and from that you can get great results. So that's advice that we would always give, but even more so now. Focus on the important things. Focus on the things that you can effect to deliver the maximum results, and obviously the cash that we've already alluded to a few times. Getting that will be the lifeblood of the business.
Great, thanks, Glenn. So step 11. So it's thinking about repeat business, and I often talk to clients when I have been out with them in the past, as how often do they go back to their existing database of clients, of customers, and look at how they can encourage them to buy again. So your existing customers are your best customers. They are the most cost-effective customers you'll ever have. You've already invested that time over the previous months and years, encouraging them to buy and take up your services. Now is a great time to go back to them and see what else you can help to, what other services or products you can offer to them. You've already got their details. Just recontact them, see what else they need, what else you can offer to them. It will cost you very little in comparison to going out and marketing for new customers. So capitalize on that opportunity for your existing customers, because they are your raving fans. They've already bought from you in the past. They know what excellent service, what excellent products you can provide to them. So it's about making sure you exploit that opportunity and create deals just for them. I was, again, made aware yesterday, the cinemas are closing down, or we're not supposed to be going to them anyway. And some of the big screen, film producers now are putting some of those films on online streaming, pay-per-view, etc. So thinking about different ways in which they can get their products, not the new big blockbusters, but some of their newer films, putting them early onto streaming services so that families can watch them at home. So it's about thinking, how can they go to their existing customers or promote their services in different ways to still generate the revenue that they need to keep their business going. But in this case, just create deals that are specific for your new customers. Show them that you care, show them that you really value their service, their custom, and really just create some special deals for them. And then think about bulk buys. So can you go out and bring in products on a bulk buy basis, but can you also offer bulk buys to your customers, depending on what service and what product you're offering? and see if, you know, for cash up front, you can offer different discounts, different deals for your customers as well. So it's thinking about how you can restructure your product ladder, your services to generate the best income, the best cash flow for your business. You want to keep your customers at all costs, so making sure your customer service and your communication is absolutely up there, and you're on top of that and all over that at this key time. And that, communication is absolutely vital in terms of your repeat business. So going back to your customers, telling them how you're adapting, how you're changing, even if you're not going out there to sell a product or a service at the moment, just general communication. It's absolutely vital. Okay, so keep going back to that key number one step, but communication with new customers, in your marketing, and with your existing customers, and with your staff.
So yes, just to throw a curveball in, we've actually introduced a 12th step, having said that there are 11. And the 12th sense is common sense and compassion, which it should be common sense. But we've identified a few areas here that you can think about. Over deliver on customer service. Go that extra mile now because you need to. Providing sanitizers, clean environments, putting people first, all those things. And don't buy too much toilet paper. That's clearly the advice. Don't panic. Don't go out and clear the shops. Don't be irresponsible. If you don't need a year's supply of painkillers, don't buy them, because somebody who might need them can have them. So if we all act sensibly, apply a little bit of common sense, and in business, follow the 11 steps that we've been talking about, we can get through this. And that's kind of the message I think that we wanted to get across on today's webinar. As I say, we sort of dovetail this content in the beginning of what we were going to deliver of our conventional content. But yeah, I mean, there's a few other things that, common sense again, like exercise, learn new things, stay connected with people, work on a project, like the long-term projects that we've been talking about, and start to create your financial planning. We're now launching, one of our pivots, for example, is we're now launching like 90-day planning by Zoom. So this kind of seminar workshop, doing it with business owners, sit there for a few hours and actually build that plan. So it's thinking about what you can do in your business to do that.
Yeah, and just to add to what Glenn said, I think nobody wants to do business with somebody who is full of doom and gloom. So it's about having a positive mindset, thinking about what you can do, having a solution-focused mindset, and staying above that line. The point of power comes from the accountability, responsibility, and ownership that we can all take in our business, every single day, and particularly when things get tough. Nobody wants to do business with somebody who says the world's going to end tomorrow. We want to be positive. We want to think about what we can do in this situation and how we can drive our business and ultimately help other people to drive their businesses forward as well. So we've said take a chill, but it is about being positive, having that positive mindset going forwards. So just before we go on to the 6 steps that we initially set out to deliver this morning, just want to sort of take a minute or so just to think about your top 3 learnings so far. Any questions on what we've covered so far before we then carry on to the next part of the webinar? So just take a minute, please. Feel free to put your question answers into the question answers box, and Julie will there just monitor them, and Julie perhaps just tell us or read out a few comments.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, you're self-muted, so if you want to unmute yourself and chime in, it's always better to talk to people, I think, on these things. I think Rachel, you put in about the social media. Don't know if you wanted to say any more on that.
Oh yes, yeah. Hi guys. Yeah, I am here, but you'll have to excuse me. I was just started to bark. So yeah, just basically, obviously, reiterating what you guys are saying. That just what I would say is to keep in touch with people on social media. Make sure that you're evolving and adapting. I mean, obviously for me, it's an awful situation, but I'm working online all the time anyway, so it's actually what I'm finding is that I can help people more that have no experience of various digital platforms, etc., which is great. And Gary, yeah, great to hear that you'll be doing the karate online karate classes, etc. So that's really good. I can actually share with you some good groups. There's so on Facebook some great groups have been created for families to entertain their children in lockdown. So yeah, that'll be useful for you, Gary. But yeah, definitely keep in touch on social media with people, and like you say, don't pull back on your marketing, because people will remember what they see during these times, and they are going to be on social media a hell of a lot. So that's all I've got to say on that one. So thank you.
No, thank you, Rachel. I mean, it's great. Yeah, I've seen several, Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups, popping up over the last few days, just to kind of bring people together. So it's a great medium. It's again back to that technology piece, utilising what's there to bring people together and to help each other through what is difficult and challenging times for us all.
Absolutely.
Thanks. And anybody else got any key learning points from what's been talked about in the last sort of 20 minutes or so that they want to share with us? Feel free to speak or to type into the question and answers box. Julia, I don't know if there's anything else in the Q&A box there.
Corona kids? What does that mean, Julie?
No, it was just following on from what Rachel was saying, really, about social media. I mean, just seeing groups pop up about, sharing information, sharing kind of tips and hints. Obviously, a lot of people are self-isolating at the moment. So there are groups out there that are helping people get through it. Especially, I mean, I just put Corona Kids up there. It's a Facebook group that I've joined, and it's got like scheduling for teaching kids at home, and things like that. The world is not stopping, it still carries on. We're on a webinar and things like that. I think that's the burning thing. It's all well and good to want to go into hibernation, but actually we can't, because we don't know how long this is going to happen, continue for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got teachers in the village who are self-isolating at the moment, and they're not in the school, but they're actually offering to do services and provide support online for free of charge, of course, on Facebook and other social networks, to help children who are at home learn and keep their learning alive. So it's not just in the business world, it's thinking about how we can all adapt and do things differently to support each other at this time. Okay, shall we move on to the next part of our webinar this morning, which is what we originally set out to deliver, and hopefully you found those 11/12 steps of use, and we continue to. There's another question popped up, I think, but is that something you want to just log into now, Julie, or is that the same for later on? No, I'll carry on and let me know, Julie, if it's something there. So,
sorry, Steve, just a question in from Andor about, Andor, unless you want to unmute yourself. Oh. No, okay. He was just asking the better way to approach people to work online for someone who delivers 90% of the time face-to-face service.
So I didn't quite catch the question, but
yeah. So I think he's saying 90% of the time it's a face-to-face service.
What kind of service are they operating at the moment?
Yeah, Andrew, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do?
I'm struggling to. I think.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, so fun. Sorry, I'm using this one for first time.
That's right.
New technology for us all.
Great. So most of the time I'm offering like one-to-one services, face-to-face, also marketing as well. For the past, I've been active on my social platforms, but not in a way to gather new customers, just to showcase like slightly what is running. So right now the gyms went quiet, so I find it difficult to talk to people mainly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of video conferencing software, that I'd encourage you to get involved and use. That if nothing else, something like FaceTime or WhatsApp video are great ways to communicate with your clients. You have those face-to-face visual conversations with them. I appreciate your work is probably very visual business, isn't it? We need to show things and talk things through. But I guess it's about embracing the technology that's available to us now to keep our businesses going. And in terms of marketing, making best use of social media, of your website. If you've got a website, if you haven't, think about, sort of in the most simple forms, getting a website set up to show what you can offer at the moment. It's using the technology that's available to us and/or to make the best of the opportunity to grow our business. That would be my suggestion. Glenn, I don't know if you've got any other comments.
No, exactly. I mean, yeah, I alluded it to earlier. You know, most of the well, I don't know if it's most of the country, but a significant proportion of the country is being told to work from home. So, you know, personal fitness is really important. You know, there is an opportunity when people are working from home. You can go for a walk more easily, get the fresh air. But I was talking on a mastermind group last night, and they were saying it's difficult, because when you're at home, there's that temptation, particularly if you're computer based for your work, that you just sit in front of it and hours disappear. Whereas if you're in a more conventional office environment, you walk around and you talk to people. So I think, you know, from your business, Andor, yeah, it'd be interesting to reach out, that communicate step with all the existing customers and say, you know, what are you doing? If you're not going to the gym, how are you keeping fit? Would you like me to check in with you? You know, and as Steve says, that could be through technology, could just be a phone call, you know, it could be a text message, you know, as simple as, did you go for a walk this morning? Did you go for a run? You know, how are you? And you'll know better than I, obviously, you know, what exercise regime is relevant to them, in other words, to check in with them on. But, you know, how can you do that? And, you know, in terms of, you know, Rachel was talking about social media, you know, it sounds like you maybe dabbled with that in the past. So that's where we need to start pivoting and thinking about, well, what could I do? What tips could I be putting tips out to the community of how to keep their personal health up? You know, what kind of, I know I've been reading articles, there's no doubt everyone has the last few days, with tips about what vitamins we should be thinking about taking, etc., to keep our immunity levels up. So there's a lot that we could give on that side, and then holding people to account. So it may be that the delivery through the gym is not the method that you'll find as financially rewarding over the next few weeks, potentially months. So think about what you can do, where you can add value from your experience to the people that need that help. Does that make sense, Andor?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So then for the next day or couple of days, I redesign my website slightly more towards online opportunities to work with me then. And that might help.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you putting that out there?
Sorry?
And how are you promoting the changes that you've made to the website?
Well, on my Instagram page, and it's going to be like that. I'm going to create some adverts as well to it.
Okay. Yeah. Visual, like that.
Great. All right.
Yeah, my daughter goes to ballet and tap classes on a Saturday, and obviously they're not really meeting anymore. And the tap school, ballet school, have actually started doing online Zoom meetings once a day for the children, so they can practice their ballet, they can learn new moves, and that's all done by using Zoom, by using online conferencing software. And then they can keep in touch with their teacher by email, by phone. There's that sort of accountability bit as well. So there's different ways in which you can deliver your service by using the technology that's around us. And you know, we just really encourage you to embrace that and think about how you can sort of, you know, make the most of that opportunity. And you may well find that when things change and go back, you'll resume the services, but actually alongside that, you'll have a whole new product stream online that has taken off and will continue to take off.
Great, that makes sense. All right, thank you.
So well, thank you for the question, Andrew. It's great you're here and you're online listening to us and engaging. So just going back to the 6 steps that we really wanted to just do, we're going to sort of do a bit of an abridged whistle-stop talk, so I'm conscious of time. But the definition in Action Coach for Successful Business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. And obviously, we're all very much hands-on with our businesses at the moment, wanting to make sure we see our businesses through these difficult weeks and months. But ultimately, where we want our business, and we want you with your business to get to, is a stage where your business can operate without you. And a great question I often ask many clients and prospects when we're delivering these seminars is, if we were to phone up, or if you were to phone up your business tomorrow and say, I'm having 3 weeks off for whatever reason, we can't travel at the moment, but if you were to go on a cruise for a few weeks, imagine you could, and you're going to go at short notice, would your business survive if you weren't there? How reliant is your business on you in terms of everyday operational to deliver its service or its product? Is it is it a business where you need to be there to make all the decisions, or do you have people and processes in place that can enable that business to work without you? And that's where we want to work with business owners to get into that position, so that their business can provide them with an income and a quality of life where they don't have to be involved on every single day of the week on a daily basis with their business. And we're just going to talk you through at Action Coach what we see is, or what we talk about, is the 6 steps to getting your business to that stage. And here are the 6 steps. And if you've met Glenn and I in person at any time, we've had one of our business cards, and on the back of the business card, you'll see those 6 steps of mastery, niche, leverage, team, synergy, and results. And we're just going to take the next sort of 15-20 minutes just to talk you through each of those steps and to help you think about how you can focus on each of those steps to help build your business, so it then works without you, and you then have choice and options about how your business might go forwards in the future. Excuse me. So just starting with mastery. What is mastery? Well, it's about having a commercial enterprise. And we work with many business owners, as I said earlier on in the webinar, of all different types of business, whether it's a funeral director, an ice cream maker, a florist. I was working with a company that does experiences in sort of track racing. But the principles of the business are always the same, that mastery level. So thinking about the destination, and we've talked a lot today about planning, and no more than now does your plan become prevalent and most important in running your business. We come across many business owners that don't have a plan written down of any form whatsoever. It's all up in their head, which, you know, in some ways that's great. At least they've got a plan and they know where they're going. But for some business owners, it's about, you know, going back to what was the vision and the mission and the culture that they saw and envisioned when they first set the business up. You know, why did they set that business up? What was the purpose? What was the dream? And where did they want to see their business in 10, 5, 3 years' time? But it's about having that written down on some sort of a plan. And I'll talk later on about team and communication. We've all talked a lot about communication already this morning. But without having that destination, that plan written down, whether it's 90 days, whether it's a year, whether it's 3 years, how do you know where you're going and how you're going to get there? It's by having that vision, that plan, you can then think about the immediate steps you're going to take to get there. Also within mastery is this thing about time. So how can we make best use of the time in your business so you can work on your business rather than just in your business? I'm sure we've all experienced at times, and I know I have in previous roles, where I'm just flat out firefighting. You know, you go in with a list of things that you want to achieve on one particular day or to do, and you get to the end of the day, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, whenever it is you finish, and your list is still sitting there not touched because you've been responding and reacting to the things that have been thrown at you by your staff, by your customers, by your suppliers during the day. So it's about how can you make best use of your time, think about SMART goals, think about having regular reviews, think about your time log, how you're using your time. Because if you know how you're using your time, then you can start to put things and processes in place to change it and to make better use of your time. Do you use a daily goal sheet? I mean, we talk about tick lists and to-do lists. I prefer to talk about achieve lists. So instead of I'm going to do something, it's about what am I going to achieve today? So what do I want the outcome to be looking like at 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock when I've finished? So it's how you make best use of your time every single day, every single week, every single month. And are you taking on the role as the owner and manager of that business? Or are you doing the role of somebody who really could be paying much less to deliver that task? So it's about making better use of your time and valuing yourself as well. So think about what you're doing every day, and does that merit the experience and the worth that you put on yourself? So if you're going in there, opening the post and answering the phones, could you get somebody to do that at a fraction of the cost, and actually be making better use of your skills and your time yourself? Then we think about delivery in that level as well. So we think about your supply, the quality of your supply, how you're delivering your services, your terms and conditions. Are they consistent? Systemization, we'll talk a bit more about systemization later, but think about how you deliver your service as well, and how easy is it to buy from your service, from your business. Thinking about, we talked a bit earlier on about face-to-face purchase, online, etc. So think about how you can deliver your product or your service, and how easy is it for potential clients, customers to purchase from you. And then the last bit we think about and talk about in mastery is about financial. And so I've missed a slide there, but so it's about the financial, the money mastery. And again, we talk and we come across many business owners who have gone into business for whatever reason. They've either got a skill or a service that they've sort of mastered at a young age, and they've developed that into a business, whether it be a carpenter, a tradesperson, or they've taken on a business from their parents or from the generation above them, or they've bought into a business or been made redundant and set up a business for other reasons. But often, or very rarely, do we come across somebody who's gone and done an MBA at Warwick or anywhere else, and actually had the experience, sort of the theoretical experience of how to run a business before they've gone in to do it themselves. And so very much they're learning on the job. And I'm sure you've all got accountants with your business, but are they just compliance accountants? Are they just ticking the box, taking that box of receipts that Claire mentioned earlier on at the end of the year, putting it into some nice spreadsheets so you can be compliant with the tax and HMRC? On a day-to-day basis, do you know how much money is in the bank? Do you know what your break-even points are? Do you know how much you owe and your credit and how much are owed by your customers? Do you know what your profit margins are? And most importantly for me is, do you know how much you need to make on a daily or weekly basis to keep your business afloat? Do you have personal and business targets in place? And do you have a monthly profit and loss account? So it's all of these basic accounting principles that we come across businesses where they're not in place, or they might be in place in the loosest sense, but it's about getting to grips with those in a much more structured process so that you've really mastered the basic foundations of running your business. So we've got the destination, that's the vision, the goals, the mission of your business, the time, think about how you can make best use of your time, think about how you're delivering your business, both to your customers and the processes and systemization behind that, and thinking about getting to grips with the basics of the finances, the money in your business as well. I'll pass over to Glenn, who's going to talk a bit more about niche.
Yes, so thank you, Steve. Yeah, I mean, some of this is more important now than it ever is, frankly. So, you know, if you can't master or if you haven't got the basics of the business mastered, it's going to be difficult in the coming weeks and months. So from that mastery, it then gets to what is usually thought of as the more interesting level in terms of thinking of what your niche is. So a lot of what your niche was last week is probably different to what it was, what it is rather this week. So thinking about, you know, what is the unique selling point of the business? So going back to our definition of a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you, it's the profitable bit that we're talking about here. So the first thing, I've already talked about it earlier on the seminar, no price competition. So don't compete on price. It's a race for the bottom, and timely as it is to talk about it again now, that there will be a lot of desperate people out there. So competing on price is not the way to go. So what we need to think about at niche is creating that unique selling proposition and also turning it into a guarantee. Again, couldn't be more timely. So the purpose of the guarantee in business is to define your unique selling proposition, but guarantee it so that there is no reason for people not to buy from you. So when we talk about unique selling propositions, people often say that they don't know what there is other than people like me, or I'm good at what I do. And the purpose of the guarantee is to take it to the next level. So the example we often have used in previous seminars, so some of you may have heard this before, is of a roofing company we work with, an action coach. So that they have the issue that they were constantly having to discount business to win deals. You know, usually discounting 20% on a deal. So they came to us, and it's like 20% off the retail price of a job is actually a significant part of profit, unless you've got huge profit margins in these deals, which often there isn't because of the competition. So what they did is they turned it into they developed a guarantee based on all the issues that prevented people from buying from them, which generally were, you're not going to turn up when you say you are, you're going to leave the place a mess, and you know, I don't like the profanity and seeing rear ends of the people on site. So they turned it into a guarantee and said, we will actually guarantee that none of those three things happen. And if they do, we'll not only give you a full refund, we'll pay for someone else to do the roof for you. So that guarantee actually enabled them to sell it at the retail price that they wanted to sell at and not discount. Now, did they have to get the buy-in from the team? Yeah, of course they did. They had to go to the team and say, listen, you need to turn up on time. You need to leave the place in as good a state as we find it, or tidier, and you need to wear a belt. And you need to control your mouth. So you're not saying things that are inappropriate in front of families and other people that may be sensitive to it. And from that, they were able to grow their business. So the relevance of that now is, you know, what can you do that's slightly unique? What kind of guarantee can you give? You know, that, yeah, I will actually be able to deliver you toilet rolls, for example, would be a great guarantee. So finding out what you can do in your business and maybe turning it into a guarantee. At Action Coach, we have a guarantee, for example, that any investment that people make in programs with us, we will guarantee you'll get that as profit within your business within 6 months, or we give it you back. Now, that's not us developing a zero-sum game to give it money away. It's because we believe in what we do and we know that we'll get the results that we do. But the objection coming in is, yeah, I'm not sure I want to invest in that. I'm unsure about it. So we're trying to take that objection off the table. So thinking about what is that, what does that look like in your business, and how can we do that? So yeah, I mean, as we move on, I don't know if anyone on the call's got anything that they want to share, anything that stand out to them, either from the previous content or what we started to talk about now. Steve, anything that you think from your side, or should we just move on?
No, we're happy to carry on. Let's crack on, I think.
Yeah, conscious time.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Len. So just thinking about test to measure, and the next part of those 6 steps is about leverage. Is how do we do more with less? And it really is important to test and measure every area of your business. So thinking about marketing and for example, so in the olden days, people used to advertise in yellow pages. That would be the key thing to get your, I can remember AAA taxis would always be at the front page of the top of the listings in yellow pages. Now it's about thinking about, well, where do your customers come from? So many customers now will come from online searches such as Google, but there'll still be other forms of advertising, backs of buses, other sorts of forms of social media, print and TV and radio. So it's about asking every single customer for a really simple tip. Every single customer that contacts your business, whether it's in person or online or on the telephone in the current climate, asking them, well, how did they find out about your business? How did they come across, Lottie's Florists, for example, if that's your business. So every time we take an order from Lottie's Florists, if a customer's found you on Google, in this current climate, you need to put more money into Google. If they're coming through to you from social media, from a Facebook post, well, guess what? It's worth putting £100 into social media to promote your posts. So it's about finding out every single time when somebody comes to you where they came from. And I was talking to a company the other day, a local businessman who owns several car maintenance garages in Birmingham. And I was saying to him, every time somebody books in for their MOT or for their service, do you actually ask them very simply how they found out about you? Have a pre-printed sheet beside the phone, whether you're working from home or working in the business itself. And every time somebody calls you, just tick a box where they've heard about you. So at the end of the week, at the end of the month, where your customers are coming from. You can then sort of focus your marketing. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on, but it is about testing and measuring everything you do in your business. And there's a really simple, I'm sort of waving my arms, getting quite animated, but I don't know if you can see me, sorry. I can't see myself. There's a really simple process we use in Action Coach called the 5 ways of growing your business. And I just want to take you through that now, because it gets me excited every time I talk about it to customers, because it's a really simple way of thinking about the numbers in your business. Just so I'm making sure I've got control of the screen. I've lost control of my screen. There we go. So let's put some numbers. So on the screen at the moment, hopefully you can see sort of a formula. That's the word I'm looking for, formula. So we think about the words we've got at the screen. Just out of interest, anybody want to put their hands up the most important words in that formula? Any suggestions on there? You're all self-muted, but when I talk to customers, they often say, well, the most important words on that screen are customers, revenue, and profit. And I always come back and say, well, no, they're the least important, because if in front of each one of those is an equal sign. And so the most important words on those screens are the blue words. It's the number of leads and the conversion rate, because it's the number of leads times your conversion rate will give you a number of customers. And it's your number of transactions times by the average sale will give you your revenue. And then your revenue times the profit margins will give you your profit. So I just want to go through this and put some very simple figures in. So we think we've got a business that's got 4,000 leads out at the moment, and the conversion rate is 25%. That gives them 1,000 customers on their books at this current time. And we think of each customer spending with that business twice in a year, and the average sale is £100 per customer. That gives them a revenue of £200,000 per annum. And they've got a profit margin of 25%. And so that gives them a profit of £50,000. Now, by using testing and measuring, by thinking about, well, where are my leads coming from? How's my conversion rate working? How many transactions is each of my customers spending with me? how much they're spending per time. By having this information through testing and measuring your business on a regular basis, we can look at how we can increase each one of those areas of your business by just 10%. So if we were to work with you, or you to work on your own with each of those areas, and if you take the number of leads, which really is your marketing. So think about your marketing for a moment and how you could increase your leads from 4,000 to 4,400 with just a 10% increase. And I appreciate fully that your figures may well be different to this, but just a 10% increase in this business would give an extra 400 prospects to potentially turn into customers through their conversion rate. And if they think about their sales process, so their marketing is their number of leads, their sales process. So how, once they've got those prospects, how are they turning them into customers? So think about their conversion rate, their sales process. Here in Action Coach, we have a 13-step sales process where we keep in touch, we communicate with people 13 occasions before we expect them, or before they turn into a paying customer. So think about your own conversion rate, your own sales process, and how you can tweak that, whether it's looking at your staff training, whether it's looking at your process itself, whether it's looking at how you communicate with your customers. So improving your conversion rate, and that will give you an extra 210 customers just by increasing each of those areas by 10%. And then assuming those customers are each buying with you twice a year, and I talked earlier on in the webinar about your existing customers, go back to your existing customers, think about how you can increase their custom with you by just 10%. So on average, each of your customers buy from you 2.2 times. Sorry, one of my other computers is making noises. But how each of your customers can increase the number of transactions they spend with you by 10%, and you can increase the average sale. So I was with a client a few days ago, a week or so ago, who've got a clothing store where they're selling beautiful, beautiful Asian wedding wear, Asian saris, and thinking about, well, how can you increase your average sale? Actually, it's by, if they buy one item, they get a choice of a selected other items at a discount, or they get a piece of jewelry to go with their dress, with their sari, at a discounted rate. So there's ways in which you can add and increase your average sale. And as again, talking to the guy who's got the 2 garages, and what other services can he add on, either at a discounted rate for that service or as an additional item, bulk, sort of a group purchase, bulk buy, to increase the average sale. So you assume you get the 10% additional average sale, and that gives you, sorry, going the wrong way, an additional revenue of £92,820. So just by increasing each of those areas by 10%, we've got almost another £100,000 revenue per annum. And then you look at your profit margins and think, well, how can I, increase my profit margin? How can I talk to my suppliers? How can I renegotiate contracts, renegotiate supplies and deals to increase my profit margin by 2.5%, by 10%, 2.5% in this case. And that would take you from £50,000 per annum revenue up to £80,000 or £80,500 per annum. So it's just a really, I've sort of done a whistle-stop tour through that, but I would encourage you to think about your own numbers. So are you in a position in your business today, while things may be a bit quieter, to think about these different areas of your business? Do you know at the moment how many leads you have coming into your business? Do you know what your conversion rate is? Do you know how many customers you have, how many transactions and the average sale? So think about each of those areas, and you may have some of those figures and may have to estimate or guesstimate some of the rest, but I would encourage you to get those figures written down, to take a snapshot of the screen right now, get those figures written down and start putting those figures into a chart for yourself, and think about how over the next 12 months you could think about growing your business. Even in these challenging times, there'll be opportunities where you can grow the number of leads and you can grow your conversion rate by thinking about how you can deliver your business differently over the coming weeks and months. Glenn, I'm not sure if this is you or me on efficiency.
I was muted. Sorry, yeah, it's leverage. So yeah, I mean, leveraging other resources we started to touch on earlier. So at that point in our definition of the business, we're starting to get to the point where it works without you, which in the current climate would be ideal. So this is the most powerful secret in business, if not the 5 ways that we just went through. It's that the chassis that is used to build a Volkswagen Golf is the same as the Audi R8. And that's kind of one of the principles that we always try and explain to people in Action Coach, is that, building a successful business, the chassis is the same, the framework is the same. These 6 steps that we're talking about, they can be applied to virtually any business. The trick is, what do you want to do with it? What do you want to build? So the important part of building a business in terms of a system is, to use our own an acronym, is saving you stress, time, energy, and money is a great way of thinking about it. But that's exactly what leverage is about. It's starting to think about what are the other resources. We talked about technology earlier on the call. What can you do to build it up? So Brad written a book on it, as Steve alluded to earlier, because he's written a book on most secrets in business. And the first step is to define your vision. So people often confuse vision and mission. I like to look at it this way. The vision is us in the corner of the room. The mission is how we're going to get there. So defining those, never more important than now in many ways, knowing why you're doing what you're doing and how you do it. Your points of culture are really important. We actually have 14, I think, at the moment, points of culture. Sometimes, just boiling it down to a smaller number is more relatable for people, but having those values is really important, because at times like this, times of crisis, that's where your culture really comes in. What do you believe in? How do you interact with customers, suppliers, staff? I think on the poll that we did, most people said customers was the current challenge. So back to the point of communication and the social media, what do you give across? What values do you present? That's really important. Steve's already talked about the importance of having goals, having them as SMART goals, building that organization chart. I often talk about not necessarily thinking about the organization chart for today, but thinking about what does the organization chart need to look like in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, even. When the business is finished, what does that organization chart look like? Writing those positional contracts for that organizational chart. So, if there's somebody that sweeps the floor, whatever, those positions are, writing them now and then dividing them out amongst the team. So, there might be a team of 1 today. It might be just you as a sole trader business, in which case you've got 50 jobs. But you know where you stand when you bring the next person along, because you can give them 20 of them, or however you want to divide it out. Having those key performance indicators, it's the dashboard. We always give the analogy of, you wouldn't want to drive a car without a dashboard, but then Tesla have launched a car without a dashboard, and guess what? You can drive it. The point probably there, in fairness, is that with the software-driven cars, there's very little that you need to do. These are built as essentially self-driving cars. But we haven't got a self-driving business yet, unless you follow all these steps. So actually everyone understanding what's important to them, what does good look like, incredibly important. Also documenting what you need to do, the how-tos. This will be incredibly valuable in the current climate, in that if you're expecting people to do jobs and to do them remotely, do they know how to do that? Is it written down? Have they got a checklist that they can follow? Because if they don't have that, then you may not get the consistency, and you may not get the job done in the way that you want. And having those management systems to, as I say, to make sure that things are being done in the way that you want them done. So, again, another opportunity for a recap. I think we've had a few more people join on the call, so hello to you. Great that you could join us. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box. We also got the chat box, so feel free to use that. I don't see any questions at the moment. You can unmute yourself if you want to dive in at any point, frankly, with a question. Always welcome. But Steve, do you want to carry on in?
Yes, yeah.
Don't see anything drop in.
Quick chat about teams. So teams are so vitally important to running our business, and no more so than now. But it's about making sure we look after our team and make that team work best for us as the business owners, or for you as the business owners. And it was Karen Brady that first talked about, was it West Ham? I'm not the biggest football follower. West Ham, I believe that she is the chairman of. And when she came in as chairman of that club, there was a lot of feedback from the fans, and she said, I don't want to know anything about the fans. I have no interest in the fans in terms of what they want, what their needs are. I'm not here to look after the fans' needs. I am here, she said, to look after the team. And if I do my job right and I look after the team, My team will look after my customers, the fans. The customers will look after the business, and the business will ultimately look after me. And so it's just a really good analogy to think of when thinking about your teams in your business, whether you've got a small team or a large team, but think about how you can get the most out of your team. And if I was doing this presentation in person, I'd talk about the rowing boat. And if you have a rowing boat, and think about the Oxford and Cambridge rowing race, there'll be the cox, there'll be the person there driving the team forward, but you'll have people in that team, maybe not in the Oxford and Cambridge teams, but people on a boat who've got the oars, but the oars aren't quite working in the way, they don't really know how to row properly. So they've got the equipment, but they don't quite know how to use it properly. There are people who are putting anchors in at the end of the boat because they don't really want to go in that direction, they want to go in a different direction. And there are people there who don't have any oars at all. So they've got all the enthusiasm and all the willingness and the right mindset, but don't have the equipment at all. So it's about thinking about your team and thinking about who have you got in your team? Have you got them best placed to do the right jobs for you in the business? Do they have the right mindset? If they've got the right mindset and not the right tools, or maybe so there's some retraining there, getting the right equipment, especially at the moment as people are changing their roles slightly, I'm sure, in your business. So are they equipped to do the new role to the best of their ability and to the best standard that you want them to do it for your business? You may well have people in your organization that have either been there a very long time or have come into the wrong role, that neither have the motivation nor the skills. And that's often about making some difficult decisions, but making them quickly for the benefit of you and everybody else in the business, so they don't drag the rest of the team on that rowing boat down as well. So it really is about making the best of your team and thinking how you can, that goes right back to the very beginning when you're recruiting your team. So thinking about what gaps, what kind of people you need in your team. Do you hire on attitude? I'm a big believer myself in hiring on mindset and not on the skills. Skills are something you can teach somebody day in, day out by putting them on a training course, by teaching them yourselves. But if they haven't got the right behaviors and the right attitude, they're going to struggle in your business from day one. So have you got the right people in that boat? Have you got the right people on the bus? And are they all going in the right direction? And that comes back to what I started off with by saying about destination. So you may well have a really good vision, an idea of where your business is going to. But if you don't have that written down in a mission statement, in a value statement, in a business plan of some kind, how can you expect your team to work to that same plan, to that same vision? So it's about communicating your vision, your plan, your destination, your dream with your team, trying to understand what their vision, their destinations are. And do you have any team alignment days where you get the team together to talk about the future of the business, look at where their personal goals are, seeing how you can make the most of the teams. And this isn't a sales webinar, but we do team alignment days. It's one thing I love doing with businesses, where we bring teams together to plan, to get them aligned with each other, to make the best use of the skill sets you have. It's the most valuable and the most expensive asset in your business. So it's making the best use of your team. And alongside that, it's about the team environment. So the physical environment in the company, what sort of culture do you have? Do you have written points of culture for your business? We have 14 points of culture in our business, everything from communication to delivery, and thinking about how we can, work best as a team going forwards. Do you celebrate the small wins in your business? So even now, as you're at home, you may well be working from home or working in different locations. Are you keeping communication? Are you calling your staff? Are you calling your team? Celebrating when things are going well, celebrating how they've adapted to the new working environments. Even if the wins may seem small at the moment, still celebrate them. Still keep that motivation and that positive mindset within your team going. And think about how you lead your team. So is there clear leadership? Do you have clear meeting structures, clear one-to-one structures, clear set of rules and guidelines and discipline? And are they adhered to? So when somebody breaks the rules, are they, do they go down a set process? And do you keep on top of KPIs? And then there is 7 steps. It's a separate process we work within teams, 7 steps to a winning team. And that's about common goals, leadership, rules of the games, action plans for your team. And I could go into that in more detail, but I'm conscious of time today. But there is, just want to encourage you to think about your team, who you've got, particularly in this current climate, how you're making best use of the team and the skills available to you. As I say, they are the most expensive assets you have, and none of us wants to let staff go at this difficult time. So it's about how you can make best use of your staff to get best value out to drive your business forwards over the coming weeks and months. Back to you, Glenn.
Yes, thank you. So the next level in our 6 steps is to move what we call synergy, which is well, synergy and results really we can cover together really, because at the point that you've mastered the business, you've established what the niche is, you've started to leverage different resources, you've built the winning team. At the point of synergy, you're starting to have a business that really does work without you, and then you can start to think about results. You know, from a business owner perspective, which is quite often the way that we approach this. You know, at the results level, you're thinking about investment. You're thinking about the next business because you've genuinely built this successful business that works without you. So yeah, I mean, as I say, I think there's a few people jumped on the call a bit later, a few maybe starting to drop off. So where you'll be in 5 years will depend on the books you read, the people you associate with, and the actions you take. That's what our founder Brad Sugars said. We quoted Jim Rohn earlier in the webinar, and Jim Rohn, when Brad went to see him as I think he was almost a teenager at the time, so the story goes, asked him, what can I do? And he said, son, read a book every week. And he's done that for the rest of his life, and look where that's got him. So yeah, that's kind of the opportunity as I see it of the current climate is we've got that opportunity. You know, if the daily commute has been taken off everyone's day, you know, take that personal fitness angle, clearly, you know, go out, take a walk, get some fresh air, subject to distancing and social exclusion, etc. Excuse the cough, obviously. But yeah, there's that opportunity to invest in ourselves, to make ourselves better, because we will only be better people if we improve ourselves. That's the very literal formula. Yeah, we talk about in Action Culture a formula of be times do equals have. Yeah, in other words, to get what you want, to get the have, to get the result at the end, you need to increase not just what you do, but what you become. And investing in yourself is really important. So investing in yourself and taking action are the really important steps.
That's great, Glenn. Thank you. And going back to what I started at the beginning with the sporting analogy, no matter how tough you think you are, none of us can do this on our own. And that is no more prevalent than it is today and this week. It is about how we can make use of the networks, the support, and the guidance and the friends around us, whether it be in business or personal. None of us can do this on our own. There are times when we all need that additional support, whether it's a coach in your business, whether it's support of your clients, your friends, your family. None of us are alone in this, and it's making sure you don't feel alone. Everyone is in the same boat, and we all want to make sure we all get to the other side. So we want to support you. We're here to support you. There are many ways in which you can get into action. So it is time to get into action. You know, it's not about letting things, you know, slip by, but actually seizing this opportunity now to work and grow your business. And I said it's not a sales seminar, but there are various ways in which we'd love to be able to work with you and to help going forwards. If you've got a bit more time at the moment, we do a book club, which will be taking into an online format very shortly, coming together once a month, maybe a bit more frequently, given where we are at the moment, but certainly to read a business book and to come together and talk about it in this sort of a format on a webinar. But the most important thing we're going to be doing over the next few weeks is taking our 90-day planning sessions onto an online format. So no more important than it is today than it has been ever to get a 90-day plan in your business. And whatever you plan for 2020, it's probably been ripped up already. The world has changed. The business environment has changed. It's about planning from today how you're going to take your business forwards. And we fully accept that in 3 weeks' time, you may need to go back and adapt and revisit and review that plan. But it's about having a plan to review and to adapt. And we come across many people who don't have that plan in place at all. So if you don't have a plan of how you're going to get through the next 90 days, we are running a number of online seminars, webinars and workshops that take about 3 hours, 4 hours, and we'll work through what's happened over the last 90 days, what you want to get out of the next 90 days, and come up with a structured plan of the key priorities in your business that you need to focus on over the next 90 days, to go into a bit more detail in those first slides at the beginning of the webinar. And just to finish up, yeah, we talked about the 90 days, list 5 ideas that you need to take into action now. So just in the search box before we finish, the question and answer box, just 5 ideas that you might have picked up from today's webinar that you could take away as you leave us to put into action now on your business. We're just really interested to hear what those are going to be from your business. So please do get typing into the question and answers box. And also if you have any questions, we've now got a few minutes. We realise we've just gone over past 11 o'clock, but we'll hang around for a few more minutes. if there's any questions you'd like to ask either myself or Glenn. Julie, I don't know if you're there, whether you're able to monitor the question box. Are there any questions coming in, Julie?
Yeah, well, or if any, as I say, you know, if anyone wants to unmute themselves, got anything to share, any experiences people have had over the last few days, or always open to hearing from people.
Yeah, happy to have a live discussion now if anybody wants to come in on the conversation.
Well, as we say, communication is key. So